Thank you on behalf of CODEPINK, the organizers of today's petition delivery and press conference. I want to thank you for being here, for showing concern for our two scholars being unjustly held in federal detention at this moment, and for your concern for this current political climate of which the demonization of China is a part of things. My name is Yunqing Jian. I'm an Ann Arbor resident, a U of M alumnus, and a first-generation Chinese American. I am deeply concerned about this Cold War against China. A Cold War doesn't have to go hot for it to be dangerous. It's already causing damage to the lives of Chinese nationals and Chinese Americans here in this country. And the Cold War is raging right here on the University of Michigan campus today, with the two postdoc fellows from China being held in federal prison without bond under baseless, highly politicized charges of agro-terrorism. I want to start by just recapping some of the details of the case. Dr. Yunqing Jian was arrested for filing improper paperwork when she brought in specimens of a plant fungus that she does research on. This plant fungus poses no threat to U.S. agriculture, and in fact, Dr. Jian has been published and is widely respected for her work on mitigating this virus. Chengxuan Han, another postdoc fellow, was arrested for mailing roundworms without proper paperwork. Roundworms are bugs that you can find in garden soil, like right in your own garden too. It's widely known amongst the scientific community that the paperwork and the bureaucracy surrounding these things is just such a burden. So they will routinely find workarounds, and we suspect this is what the two scholars did. What they did was not unusual. It's just what happened. And typically, these infractions are met with a reprimand or a fine. But instead, the Department of Justice is seizing this opportunity to score cheap political points and fearmonger about China, causing Americans to further be suspicious of Chinese people. This is very dangerous, and it's just wrong. A university should be a place of free exchange of ideas amongst the people of the world, free inquiry and expression, and it should be a safe place, a place of hospitality for our international scholars, and it should be a place of protection for all its students. And when I say this, I'm speaking not only of Drs. Jian and Dr. Han, but for the pro-Palestine, anti-genocide students who are facing disciplinary action for their protests against the genocide in Gaza. To my mind, both groups of people are our best and our brightest, and the university has a responsibility to nurture them and because they are our future. So, today, we are, up until this point, unfortunately, the university has not said anything in defense of Dr. Jian or Dr. Han. So today we are asking them to break their silence, to refuse to cave in to political pressure, as you see other institutions do one by one. And to do anything less would be to damage their global reputation and their academic integrity. So today, to Interim President Domenico Grasso and the U of M Board of Regents, we say, provide legal support to our two scholars, provide them with the mental health support they need during this time, and refuse to be a party of politicized government actions at this time and going forward. Dr. Grasso, we want you to hear our words to oppose xenophobia and rising militarism. If you take a stand today, you will make us proud, and you will truly live up to being the leaders and the best. Thank you very much. We have a few other members of our community U of M alumni, American Ann Arbor residents, and journalists who would like to add some commentary to this press conference today. Oh, I also wanted to welcome members of the press who are here with us today. We appreciate it. Okay. So first, I would like to introduce Bill Meyer. Thank you, Bill, for being here. Bill Meyer is a community organizer, a peace activist from Hamtramck, Michigan. He is the past chair of the Michigan Peace Council and the Move the Money Coalition. And today he'll be providing some of the geopolitical context to this terrible situation that we're finding our scholars in today. So, Bill, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Linda Wong.
All right, Linda Wong.
Amazing activist. So, yes, I've been a lifelong activist, and I have 2 words to start with. Nothing new. I've been here in the 60s. There's Diag here, protesting the Vietnam War. This is 60 years later, we're still having wars all around the world. What's changed? Has our lives got better? Are we more influential, more accepted in the world? We're dealing with a brutal empire that's been going for at least 100 years, stealing resources from all around the world. And mostly in communities that are not necessarily communist countries. They steal from anybody. And, we do. We're living off of the rest of the world. How luxurious life we have, we can thank the rest of the world for. As far as what's going on with these students, you should know that probably what she referenced the Cold War that's going on now. There's no doubt in my mind that it's all a process of harassing the Chinese government and threatening a war with China. We all know, most of us know that that's the target, that's the main target, the war with China. All these other wars are leading up to it. So we have to stop it in the bud here. We don't want to get on campus here and start protesting the war in China. Let's prevent it. And one way we can do it is to defend these students who are just targets and obstacles in the way. We have to get them out of jail and help them get back and then defend them. If they didn't do anything wrong, as you can tell. The point is that we're going to do whatever we can. I mean, the government is going to do whatever they can to scare and harass Chinese people and other activists who support universal harmony in the world, activists who support peace and justice in the world, that they're going to try to scare us. So let's not be scared. Let's take these petitions over there and start this defense of these students and the defense of liberty and justice in the world, defend against war. And that's, I mean, there's much more to say, but I only want to say 2 minutes. So just thank you all for being here. This is the glorious impetus of supporting the battle against this growing police state of America. We cannot speak out as easily as they used to. As soon as the government's threatened, we're denying our privileges. So luckily we got a chance to get to talk about it. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for providing the background to the situation that we're in now. And thank you for your many years of activism. Yes, it is a pity that 60 years later you're still having to protest on this war. Okay. So next, I would like to introduce Bob McMurray. Bob is a U of M alumnus, U of M employee, and a resident in Ann Arbor. And what he would like to talk about is how he opposes the demonization of China and how it's harmful on so many levels. Bob?
As she said, I am an alumni. I'm also an employee here at the University of Michigan. Most personally, I am married to this wonderful woman here of Chinese descent. So this is very personal to me. But to be honest, I stand here in solidarity and shared humanity with the people of Gaza, with the tens of thousands of Americans who die every year because they don't have adequate health care. I stand with solidarity with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Because what we're talking about here is a narrative of disrespect for human life. That's all we're talking about, disrespect for human life. And so I stand here most specifically today in support of these 2 Chinese scholars who are being used as props to demonize China and dehumanize Chinese people. These two researchers came here to help our farmers protect their crops. And in a complete turnaround, they're now being charged with agro-terrorism because they brought a fungus into this country that's all around us in the first place. I believe the persecution of these two Chinese researchers is a perfect example of taking an innocent mistake and concocting a crime to support a narrative that's leading us towards war. Think Chinese spy balloon. This is just greasing the skids for suspicion of all things Chinese. We've seen this film before. Demonization and dehumanizing people is part of the predators of war. We know we have insane leadership that thinks that war with China is inevitable. We are being lied to. Worse, the lies are being primed to prepare us. The lies are priming us to prepare us into another unnecessary war that will chew up another generation of young Americans and young people around the globe. The demonization of all things Chinese will have consequences. Just ask the Palestinians who are being ground in the dust in the rubble of Gaza. The genocide we are witnessing today is the ultimate expression of a culture that's indifferent to life. What we are seeing with this witch hunt against these students is an othering of people, making them the enemy, preparing us to kill them. In going along with this persecution, the University of Michigan is shaking hands with the devil. Perhaps it should come as no surprise. The encampments arose over there. We're trying to awaken the conscience of our nation, and the University of Michigan decided to not listen. So we stand outside the circle of power with a simple demand that forms the basis of every protest. Do better. Step up to your support for the international students in China and stop shaping the lies that will lead to a Cold War. You are entrusted with the best and the brightest. Do better. Find the courage to challenge the narrative of power. Promote the ideal of justice our young people have not forgotten. And enlarge our human family.
Bravo. Bravo. Bravo.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. Next, I'm very happy to introduce Stephen Sinclair. He's a journalist with the World Socialist website, a publication that has been following this story very, very closely. I really respect his dedication to this case, and I look forward to him sharing his comments with you today. I appreciate you being here, Steve, and your work. Stephen Sinclair.
Hi, everybody. The cases of Yunqing Jian and Chengxuan Han are political frame-ups designed to whip up anti-China sentiment and subordinate scientific inquiry to the dictates of imperialist war. Jian, a postdoctoral biology fellow, was arrested June 2nd on charges of conspiring to bring funds from Syrian ground in the air into the U.S. In a separate case, Han was arrested June 8th, facing charges of smuggling C. elegans brown roofed plasmids into the U.S. Jian and Han have been held in federal custody since early June without bond. Let us be clear. John and Han are victims of a political frame-up. They face up to 20 years in prison for actions that under ordinary circumstances would result in a fine. This is a cruel political persecution of two defenseless innocent scientists. The day after Jan's arrest, FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted, "Jan is alleged to have smuggled a dangerous fungus, which is an agro-terrorism agent, into the U.S. The government's alarmist narrative, particularly regarding the agro-terrorism potential of this area, is not based on science. Leading plant pathologists have unequivocally dismissed this claim. Professor Emeritus Caitlin Allen of the University of Wisconsin states, it is, quote, irresponsible and unethical to say these scientists were planning to commit agro-terrorism, unquote, emphasizing that Fusarium is already widespread and, quote, would not be an effective agro-terrorism agent. Allen added that, quote, these are mainstream views in the scientific community, unquote. An Oakland University scientist echoed this analysis, calling the agro-terrorism designation against Jen completely absurd and asinine. In Han's defense, he stated, quote, C. elegans is a completely innocuous thing to be shipping. I could dig up some soil in my backyard and mail it to my mother, and it would probably have some C. elegans in it. Am I going to be jailed for that? What are the political motives and aims behind these frame-ups? First, in the cases of Jian and Han, they're being used to whip up anti-Chinese sentiment to prepare the way for military conflict with China, the major rival of U.S. capitalism and a nuclear power. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins cited the cases of Jian and Han as supposed evidence of a threat to U.S. agriculture, announcing a ban on Chinese purchases of U.S. farmland and the purging of Chinese nationals from USDA contracts. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's recent remarks at the Shangri-La dialogue were chilling. He warned that China poses an imminent threat, urging allies to, quote, dramatically escalate your military buildup, end quote, and to choose sides between U.S. and China. This rhetoric, coupled with massive war games like this month's Talisman Sabre, involving 19 nations and over 35,000 service members, are concrete steps towards military conflict. Second, the cases of Jian and Han are being used to escalate the attack on universities, to destroy academic freedom and democratic rights, and further the establishment of a presidential dictatorship. Congress and the Department of Education have each initiated investigations into U of M that cite the sensationalized claims about Jian and Han. The Trump administration is carrying out Gleichschaltung, a German word that means synchronization, modeled on the Nazi subordination of German education, art, culture, and the media to Nazi ideology. We saw this plainly in the crackdown on Gaza genocide protests. Universities, including U of M, faced federal investigations and funding threats under the slanderous pretext of combating anti-Semitism. This is a nationwide and international phenomenon, led by the same governments that are supporting Israel in its mass murder and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. The University of Michigan has collaborated with the Biden and Trump administrations to implement repressive measures against students protesting the Gaza genocide. It is therefore no surprise that U of M has capitulated to the witch hunt against Jian and Han. The faculty and student unions at U of M, including their parent unions, such as the American Federation of Teachers, haven't uttered a word on Jian and Han. The only campus organization that is opposing the witch hunt of Jian and Han is the International Youth of Students for Social Equality. The crises we face are all facets of a multi-front global war waged by U.S. imperialism and its allies. This war extends from preparations for conflict against China, the ongoing genocide in Gaza, to the proxy war against Russia and Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is not a defense of democracy, as is clear from the massive anti-corruption protests last week against Zelensky, whose presidential term expired in May 2024, with thousands in the streets defying martial law. It is an imperialist war by the U.S. and NATO against Russia, instigated and provoked by the expansion of NATO to Russia's borders and drive to incorporate Ukraine into NATO. In Ukraine, 26-year-old socialist Bogdan Sirotchuk faces charges of treason and a potential life sentence for publishing articles on the World Socialist website exposing the reactionary character of the Ukrainian regime and the war. Bogdan has been in prison for 15 months solely for his political views. He opposes both the Putin government's reactionary invasion and U.S.-NATO warmongering, and calls for the unity of Russian and Ukrainian workers to stop the war. The European Court of Human Rights has just accepted his case, but it could take years to resolve. Bogdan is not in good health, and his medical treatment has been poor and delayed. Freeing Bogdan is a critical part of the mobilization of the working class against war and fascism internationally. We invite you to sign a petition. The war to drive to fascism will not be stopped by appeals from the capitalist governments and parties. The frame-up of Jian and Han, the warmongering against China, the war against Russia and Ukraine, and the genocide in Gaza are bipartisan, supported by the Democrats as well as the Republicans. The only social force capable of stopping the descent into war and barbarism is the international working class. We must build an independent movement of students, faculty, and staff across universities, turning to the most powerful social force, the working class as a whole. This movement must be based on a socialist program, reorganizing economic and social life, placing banks, industries, giant corporations, and universities under worker control. The fight to free Bogdan, to defend Jian and Han, to end the genocide in Gaza, the U.S. made a war against Russia and Ukraine, and to stop the war drive against China is the fight for socialism. Build an international socialist anti-war movement based on the working class.
Amen. 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 Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for your deep comments and for your relentless reporting towards the next stop.
Thank you.
For following so closely. Okay, well, we have one final speaker. Dr. Chengxuan Han today, Arbor resident, Professor Emeritus from Michigan State University. He's going to just summarize the main points of our conversation today. He'll deliver his remarks in both English and Mandarin for any of the international community here with us today. So the floor is yours, Dr. Chan. Thank you for being here.
The issue at hand is with the imprisonment of Dr. Jian and Dr. Han, two of the well-known postdoc scholars at University of Michigan. And this is the key issue that we face today, but the backdrop has to do with the current administration toward China and presenting to the world that China is a rival or an enemy of the United States. And that is certainly putting this case into context. And we have to be vigilant about what happens to the world if China and the United States, two of the largest economies, are at war. And more than evident that there's a lot of effort in presenting the next Cold War into a hot war. And we have to stay vigilant about the risk of such conflict that would be devastating for all of the world. And in fact, the case of China's rise, where 800 million people are elevated out of abject poverty over the last 56 years, only after the devastation of the Second World War. 1945 ended, and only 1949 that China newly established its sovereignty, where before it was invaded and occupied and colonized by many countries. And the rise of China is not coincident because of the effort and the suffering of the millions of people over the last 100 years. And finally, they stand up to those poverties that is raging across the country. And hunger and suffering was not unfamiliar to the Chinese, and therefore they pressure the rise right now in the colonial suffering and abject poverty no more. And this rise of China certainly considered by the United States as a threat. Unfortunately, instead of cooperation, we have seen much more effort in antagonizing other countries rather than creating a better world for everyone. So I think today, with the case of imprisonment of Dr. Jian and Dr. Han, is just part of this overall context of the administration's effort in creating more animosity with China, and it's not going to provide better opportunities for cooperation. And therefore, today we have gathered together to emphasize the case for more vigilance for peace around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Chan, would you like to offer a few words to our international community here today? You want to say a few words?
Yeah. So just in case for those who speak Chinese today, 我们很重要，和平。美国跟中国都是两个最大的经济体，所以他们的政策非常重要，对于整个世界的和平，从我们的后代子子孙孙的好的生活非常的重要。今天我们特别提出这个问题，让大家考虑和思考这个更好的将来。
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
doing
you.
just a very short translation of Dr. Chan just said that China and the U.S. are two of the most important countries in the world, and they must work together. The future of our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, depends on peace and cooperation. Thank you all for being here today and for gathering in peace and in the spirit of shared humanity.
Stay vigilant.
Yeah. Yes.
Stay vigilant.
Great. How are we doing on time, guys? We
20
have an
to 4.
appointment
20
at
to
4
4.
o'clock, which is
It's 20 minutes to 4.
okay. I wanted to see if the press have any questions for us at this time. You can address any one of our panelists here. So we have from MLive, we have Jackie Smith. Okay, Jackie Smith from MLive has a question for our panelists. Bob, Bill, you want to come forward? Bob and Bill, come forward.
I think this is really a question for anybody.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, certainly it's an understandable sort of global look at a concern. A local news source and a community where there is one of the largest sort of Chinese-speaking populations in the state. Those stereotypes and those things that necessarily perpetuated. When we look at the scrutiny on Chinese students at U of M, from like the Department of Education's scrutiny on research grants related to Chinese researchers. I wasn't sure if you guys had existing concerns about sort of the local public's reaction to how this might heighten that sort of prejudice and xenophobia. Just as like a community of people in general.
I'm going to ponder that. Does somebody want to jump in first? I know, Bob, you've been thinking about it.
We talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's as pernicious as advertising. All it takes is a story or two in the news that presents Chinese in an unfavorable light, and presents a narrative where they're like portrayed as terrorists or even just as criminals. Gets into your brain in the same way that advertising does. I mean, I have a shocking admission to make of people that I sometimes think, oh, I need an iPhone 16. And it really is the same kind of dynamic of, well, that Chinese person was presented as a bad person, so every Chinese person that I meet starts to fall under suspicion. And even within a community, as you said, that is fairly well non-segregated, let's say, in terms of Asian population, that effect still happens. It's very sneaky, but I do believe that it happens, and it's incredibly dangerous. And so that's why Dr. Chan, be vigilant, is very important. Is that you have I can't remember the exact words of Noam Chomsky, but I mean he talks about the idea of intellectual self-defense. I believe is the phrase that he uses, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to tell people intellectual self-defense, especially at the University of Michigan. And it's not happening here. They should be criticizing and examining every statement that comes out of our government and every statement that comes out of the media. But it's not being challenged. I don't know if that answered your question. But
That was great. That's why I handed it off to you. Stephen wanted to address that question. Thank you.
I think it's important to remember that there's no popular support for anything, whether it's a war against China, a war against God, a war against Russia, and the level of lying that they have to do in order to justify this war shows you the unscientific charges against Jian and Han are at such a level that what am I trying to say?
Well, I mean, the foundation manifested tactics that the government uses to try to whip up Asian and Chinese communication that doesn't exist.
Thank you.
The government, but the other side, there's no official institution that will fight back, including the Universal Commission and even unions that represent workers who are supposed to represent workers. It's got to come from the workers. It's got to come from the working class. That's the force that will stop poison attacks on the economic place. That's the view of international community.
I'd like to add something.
Bill Meyer.
I didn't get into this because I only had a few minutes, but the U.S. empire is in decline, many of you know, and it's threatened. And one of the ways to defend itself is crazy stuff like going after countries who avoid the world becoming a multipolar world. They want to keep control of it. And this is why things like this are happening. Because when I'm in like this, no reason to bring it back. It's going to get worse. I'm sure it is. Because empire is declining. And you can tell that China's government, China's society is improving so fast that if there wasn't one look into it, the society is made. They surpassed us in many ways. Because we're more interested in imperial power. They're interested in working together with the world to find a way for everybody to get what they need for their own people. So what we're seeing now is we're going to be victims of this approach to fighting other people. China wants to work with other people. The U.S. wants to fight other people. So I think we have to defend not only students that were unjustly accused, but also defend against any other war that our country gets involved in. Because we know why they're in war. We don't need that. It's not going to help us at all.
I don't think I have much to add to that. Thank you. Do you have any other questions from the audience in general?
I'd like to ask everyone to sign the petition to free Bogdan Sirotkin, the Ukrainian student that I talked about earlier. Imprisoned solely for his political beliefs, 15 months. Case parallel to Jian and Han, for trumped up charges. Please, if you want to give your phone number to those who support Bogdan, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it.
I'm not sure where I'm at. Where the car is.
With regards to the Michigan community and the Ann Arbor community, I think like if we look at history with the murder of petition in the 80s, where there was a lot of rising anti-Japanese sentiment over the economic competition, I think that in the United States now, with the rivalry increasing between the U.S. and China and the Cold War, and with COVID as well, actions like of the federal government, like this targeting these Chinese students, and the university refusing to stand up for them, I think that's going to contribute to this hostile environment.
Do you think it has a chilling effect from people who would otherwise speak out on that sort of stuff from not speaking out on that sort of stuff?
I think definitely, and I think that I know a lot of international students, or Chinese international students, who are very afraid at this moment because of these sorts of actions. Yeah, I think that's true.
And I would just like to say, in this moment, going about my errands around town, I feel calm and happy. I mean, people are inherently good, and eat each other's food, we intermarry, we hang out with each other. We're at a point in human history when there's so much cross culture. It's beautiful, but unfortunately, our governments, our institutions, especially in this country, are wedded to war, and they sense a threat in China, and so the stories coming out of the words coming out of government officials is all about war. That's the only diplomatic tool that they can offer, and we need the media to push back and question this narrative. It's your responsibility at this time. As people are saying, there is no popular support for any of the wars going on right now. So this is a moment for we the people to organize ourselves, to educate ourselves, talk to our friends and neighbors. People know what's right and what's good, and so we need to dig in. And to that end, I would say that CODEPINK has a working committee called China is Not Our Enemy. It's specifically devoted to talking about China, a country we know so little about, in which we discuss the issues of the day. They lobby in DC, and they're on top of everything that's going on there. They have their ear to the ground on what's going on in the rest of the country. Stay in touch with them. And then here in Ann Arbor, we've just started a small local chapter of CODEPINK's China's Not Our Enemy. We meet once a month in person for open discussion. It's open to anybody with a curiosity, with an interest in learning more about China. And we always have good food, often dumplings. And dumplings are amazing, speaking to the interconnectedness of the people of the world this time. Dumplings are a universal food. It seems like every culture has their version of it. The empanada, and the ravioli, the pierogi. Anyway, so it's a symbol of the hope for our future. So dumplings feature prominently in a monthly in-person meeting. So please come.
So what's next?
And the next, we typically meet the last Wednesday of every month. We have a meeting. Yes, coming up in a couple of days, to which you're all invited. We usually have them at Dr. Chan's home, but sorry, we get bigger, we may need to find more public location.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what do we do now? We go to petition?
Sorry. We don't have any more. We can take one more question from the press or the audience.
Just summarily, you described what, 2,300 signatures
Yes.
for that particular petition?
Yes.
Who would you say is who are the signatories? Who does that represent?
CODEPINK sent out a petition demanding that the university breaks its silence, and I believe they sent it out to their membership. CODEPINK is a women's-led peace organization with chapters all over the country. They lobby in DC. So they sent it out to their membership.
From all over?
From all over, from all over the country, and a lot from Ann Arbor, the Washington County area too, because it's happening here. Yes. So in regards to the petition, we have hand copies of the petition, which we will take over to the Ruffin building and present to the office of the interim president of the university, Domenico Grasso. So everybody is welcome to join us. Regardless of whether or not you come, we appreciate you being here today, for listening to our speeches and showing support at this critical time. We hope to stay connected with all of you. We thank the members of the press, Jackie and Stephen, for being here, for your work on this issue. Is there anything else we can say before we